Yes, you are speed painting wrong. Speed painting is not just painting fast. It's not just a formula. Speed painting is a theory of painting efficiently to achieve the desired results. And if you do it right, yeah, it's pretty quick. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Eons of Battle. Take it from me, a very slow painter, painting minis takes time, and your painting speed should be completely dependent on how much you enjoy doing it. If you feel like going full ball sack and trying to achieve something amazing, spend 50 to 100 hours. And if you just cannot be bothered, then for sure, 3 colors, 20 minutes, in and out, completely fine. When you paint as much as I do, you'll learn a thing or two, some sick strats that can help you get through a mountain of minis in a relatively short amount of time. Relatively. There's no magic recipe for a couple of minute models. It'll take some time. If you work in some efficiencies and simplify the painting, you can get through a lot of figures without burning out along the way. Now, to properly demonstrate what I'm talking about, I need a lot of figures. And my buddy Dave from miniwargaming.com hooked me up with a bunch of minis from Ravaged Star Armies of the Veil Touched, a collaboration between MWG and Lazy Squire Games. These models are prototypes of their new line of highly detailed sci-fi miniatures for use in your favorite tabletop games. This faction features corrupt soldiers hell-bent on destroying any and all planets within their vast reach. I suppose you could call these cultists. They're a bunch of ladies who just love killing. They have a real mean space pirate thing going on. These are busy models, and I think that'll actually help me to paint them up quickly. Subtle detail often requires a finer hand when it comes to painting, and I would not call these gals subtle. So how do these minis stack up? Well, when I put one of these models next to a current cultist model from Games Workshop, it's a head and shoulders bigger. These models are in a 32mm scale, so they are bigger, but are they too big? I don't think so. They're in a 32mm scale, so bigger than typical Games Workshop 28, but it's also much better proportioned. Also, Games Workshop 28mm is kind of a joke, because when I place a Necromunda model, which a lot of people use as cultist proxies, they're just about the same size. Also, I really like the sculpted bases. It's just rock and earth sculpted into the shape of a 25mm base, and it's great. These things would look so good on the tabletop. No base rim, no messing about. And it makes me question, why is it an industry standard to have 4mm of useless plastic height for people to argue about what color it's appropriate to paint? True painting connoisseurs know that only black base rims are appropriate for real miniatures, and only idiots would do otherwise. Brown base rims just make more sense. Brown goes better with a wider variety of battlefields. Why would there be a black void under every model? Goblin green. Goblin green. I will die on this hill. Every base rim should be goblin green. It was perfect in '99 and it's still perfect today. For real though, every year models are getting better and better, and truly sculpted bases like these might be the next step in base evolution. Maybe we should leave plinths to the display minis. These gals are awesome, and I want to paint them up quickly. I'm going to be using every trick in the book, and if I pull it off, then tonight, I will have some Amazon Valkyrie cultist pirate badass babes to bring to the tabletop. I have 19 minis and I want to get them done in 8 hours. That's pretty quick. That's about 40 minutes a model, so I'm gonna have to be smart with everything I do. And I want to actually enjoy the process. That's priority number 1. And I love painting, but not everything about painting is fun, and speed painting is often the least fun. But I have some sick strats to help with the enjoyment process. First, I used some mounting tape and a scrap of foam and stuck down my minis so that I don't have to pick up and put down 19 models while I prime, shaving off minutes to increase the speed. I sprayed the models black, and I could have even done this faster if I used a rattle can of black primer, which pushes more paint faster than my airbrush can. And of course, I used my trusty hairdryer as another speed boost. I'm gonna give these minis a zenithal of a color, and I'll use a light orange and light green. This is in place of the classic white zenithal, and it'll help keep my colors nice and saturated. I chose my colors to run a little experiment. The orange should add some warmth, and the green should add a sickly tinge. We'll see how much this shows up on the final product. My minis were looking fun, but with a color zenithal, my brightest spots are still a little dull, so I did a quick dry brushing of some whites on every model. Less than an hour in, and I've got a great start on these guys. I've got them all base coated up. They look a little bit like holiday M&Ms, but it is a great place to start because now I'm gonna be doing a lot of glazing. To make my glazes, I put 2 drops of paint medium, 2 drops of paint, and then about 6 drops of water and mix it all together. This will make watery, transparent paint that I can put onto my minis. This will tint but let my base coat and dry brush show through, which is important for this speed paint. I don't want or have time to do any highlights. Another benefit of the glazes is I don't have to be super precise. The paint is transparent, and if one color runs into another, it won't look too jarring, especially with this dusty brown color scheme I'm going for. It's a quick process and it really makes the minis come to life. This was a time sink, but well worth it. In under 2 hours, I had a huge portion of the painting process done. I'm about halfway through and I'm in a great spot. My base coat and dry brushing gave me my highlights, and my glazing gave me my colors, but now I want to give them a wash. And I don't want to use my nice Agrax Earthshade because that's going to be like $2 a wash. So I'm going to make my own using Flow Aid Matte Medium water and some transparent black and burnt umber ink. I put in 6 drops of burnt umber, 2 drops of black ink, a healthy dose of Flow Aid, and 3 drops of matte medium. Now for the water, and if what is in my cup now is 1/3 of my mixture, the last 2/3 will be water. I slobbered this all over my minis, and this wash will accomplish 2 things. Hide any mistakes I might have committed when glazing, and help to further bring out all the lovely details in these sculpts. My homemade wash gave me the freedom to get sloppy with it. Let the paint dribble around, because you better believe if this was Games Workshop premium stock Agrax Earthshade, I'd be trying to rescue every drop. But you know what I will always try to rescue? That's right, our Patreon. We're starting a Miniature of the Month club. This month you can get these squid mages. We also have high quality Tyrannus sales hosted by Comics, Games, and Things. Viewer model critique videos, a weekly hobby hangout, live streams, and more. It's the best way to support us, so head on over to Patreon to get access to even more Eons of Battle. We also have merch, link in the description. And for the bases, I put some grain in my airbrush and sprayed these onto the bases, doing my best to avoid the feet. But if I get a little overspray on it, it's not the end of the world. Hashtag speed paint. Once the gray was dry, I dry brushed a light gray to bring out the detail of the lovely sculpted bases. Now the bases looked decent, but its clean, cold tones clashed too much with the warm bandage-clad minis, so I broke out the pigment powders. I poured some red pigment into a cup and made a nice tomato soup, and then I spread this over the bases and used a clean brush to wipe some of the pigments away from the raised edges. While the pigments dried, I used a small dry brush to put a little bright silver onto the weapons and metal bits of the minis. And just like that, my ladies are kinda done. I'd be perfectly happy to plonk these on the gaming table right now, but I still got plenty of time left. Up until now, I've been doing nice, easy steps that I can apply to all of the ladies evenly, but now I'm just gonna go one by one and I'm gonna give them each a little extra spice to make them all perfect. The exposed skin darkened a lot with the washes, so I brushed on some highlights to bring them back up and make my gals look a little more lively. And this was especially true on all the fingers and hands. They needed a touch up. Then to give each model a nice focal point, I put some transparent red ink onto their hair. This ink will let all my previous layers show through so that I don't have to do any highlights. You know, I think these gals might make a great Necromunda gang. Maybe I'll use these for an Escher gang. I've always kind of had my eye on Necromunda. It is a really cool game. I have the starter sets. Maybe these ladies can make a really unique Necromunda House Escher kill team. And on some of the minis where my glazes and homemade washes just did not butter the biscuits, I broke out the good stuff, real Agrax Earthshade, and fixed them right up. These models came together quick, and I was so happy to spend my remaining hours doing little touch-ups here and there. To me, speed painting is not really just about going fast, but condensing the painting process into a more enjoyable experience. 8 hours start to finish is just more fun than 80. I want to leave myself wanting more. Now my ladies are done, but I still thought the bases were a little too different from the minis, so I squirted just a little burnt umber ink onto the bases to bring some of that warmth down onto the bases. And with time to spare, I stopped the clock. Hashtag speed painting for the win. These ladies were a great exercise in speed painting, using simple techniques to get a lot of paint onto the models quickly. Traditional painting methods like base coating, highlighting, and edge highlighting take a fair amount of time and precision, going one by one, analyzing the model and putting the paint where it needs to go. Glazes, washes, and dry brushing are quick, and I can kind of do those techniques on autopilot while I watch Seinfeld on my laptop. I could have painted them better, but would it have amounted to more in the end? I could have spent 2 hours on each model, around 40 hours in total, and they might have looked better, sure, but I would be feeling a little bit burnt out instead of excited to do even more painting. Let's look at these gals. The warriors of the Red Desert. They used the clay of their world to make red hair dye to make their already frightening visage even more intimidating. Their dusty, ramshackle clothing might make them seem rather unassuming, but the deadly weapons they carry are no mere decorations. They're skilled warriors and assassins all. Not at all a bad job for 8 hours of work. The models helped a lot. They are dripping with details that took dry brushing and washes beautifully and made sure that even though the painting techniques applied were simple, it all added up to a great final product. And if you're interested in them, you can head on over to the Ravaged Star Armies of the Veil Touched page on Gamefound, where the Pledge Manager is still open. Thanks for watching.